Hi, everybody. Lynn Burkhead with MajorLeagueFishing.com, sitting alongside Marty Robinson. And Marty, I've been asking a lot of anglers this week with the first ever Major League Fishing Select here in northeastern Oklahoma. I've been asking them, because a lot of them haven't played the game yet, hadn't been their day to get out on the water yet. I've been asking them, what do you think you're going to experience? I get to ask you a different question. You got out on the water yesterday. You're now kind of a veteran of Major League Fishing. You got to play the game. Was it what you thought it would be?
Yeah, it was. It was what I thought it was to be and more. Like I was telling some of the guys, that I fished against and that were in my group. I mean, it's like, in a regular tournament format, the intensity when you take off that morning is just, 100%. Your mind's racing there, everything in you is just pumped up. You're excited. And depending on how your day goes, if you get to your first place and you catch 3 or 4 fish, you kind of start to calm down the nerves. Everything starts to ease off. And you say, well, okay, I'm going to get them today. I got me 4 already. I got the rest of the day to catch one good one. And you got a little time to kill. You can kind of go play around. You can experiment a little bit and take it easy. Check out a pattern. Try this, try that. Maybe try to find something that'll help you build on tomorrow or the next, third day or whatever. And this deal right here, it's never over. It's never easier. You're never in any better shape than what you was before you caught the fish. You catch as many as you can, and the weight never quits. And it's not like that guy's got 5. He's got his. He's gonna have to catch a big one to move up. Don't matter if he catches 100, but now if that guy catches 100, he's gonna have 100 pounds, and you're gonna have 5 or whatever. But so the intensity never decreases at all.
Does that tire you out? I've heard some anglers say they were just absolutely worn out when the day was over. For what you just talked about, the intensity level just starts at the beginning and goes all the way to the very end.
Yeah, it does. It's just, and it does tire you out mentally because, like I said, you never have a rest. Your mind never has a rest. And, you fish for 2 hours, then you have a 30-minute break. You fish for another 2 hours, and then 30-minute break, and then the final 2 hours. And those 2 hours seems like 20 minutes to me. Mm-hmm. And, it's like as many casts as I can make in 20 minutes. And, I think that's what hurts me a lot of times in this format. It gets to rushing you. You get to fishing too fast. And, you started out working a jerk bait like this, and then you come up, and then the next thing you know, you're working a jerk bait like this, and it's just, your mind's racing. It's really tough to stay focused on what you're fishing or what bait you're using.
It's easy to get spun out in this Major League Fishing game. Did anything in your opening round, did it surprise you at all?
I kind of picked a deal, chose a pattern and a technique to start out with, and I actually started getting bites fairly quick. I think I was the first guy to catch a fish, so that helps. But I think the guy in the boat told me, my official told me later on that the guy that catches the first fish never wins. So I wish he'd have told me that earlier, and I shook him off or something. But anyway.
It's not always true, but sometimes.
But I started off relatively quick. I caught one, and when you catch that first fish, it always comes to nerves, no matter what type of deal you're doing. I started catching a few fish. I was getting bit, fairly decent, and I noticed some of the other guys were starting to catch fish, and everybody was catching them, but nobody was, nobody had a real slow period there until maybe about midway through. Most of the time, around lunchtime, a lot of times a bite would slow down, and it did, and for me it did. And I noticed some of the guys could still catch a fish or two here and there, and that was the difference, it seemed like.
One thing that most of the anglers, it takes them a while to get used to, because it kind of goes against your DNA of all the other professional angling that you've done. You've been fishing for 5 fish, the biggest 5 you could bring to the scale, and that's it. In this format, you're fishing for every legal fish you can weigh. They all add up at the end of the day, and the thing is, you're going to know where you are all day long because your boat official keeps telling you. How did the Score Tracker Live mess with your mind through the day?
Like I was saying, I had a good start. I was off to a good start, but when I had that slow period, in a normal tournament situation, I would be thinking, well, the fish, obviously the bite has got tough. I'm confident enough in my fishing to know when I'm not catching them, the bite's tough, which is probably 80% of the time is the case. But in this deal right here, even when you're having a tough time, there'll be some of the guys that are catching them. And then instead of thinking, well, it's tough, nobody's doing real good right now. And the guys that was catching them really wasn't catching any big fish, like in a tournament situation, it probably wouldn't have helped them a whole lot. But in this deal, it's all about getting bites. And those guys were still managing to get some, keeper fish here and there. So it was gradually, the leaderboard wasn't jumping big, but it was gradually, and it was starting to build. And the farther you got behind, the more courage you seen.
It gets intense when you start feeling yourself falling behind the pack. It was intense. Your round was intense in several periods, and it'll be very exciting television for the fans to watch. I want to ask you one last question. You came in with some expectations. You'd seen, I'm sure, Major League Fishing. You'd seen the game played. You'd probably talked to some of the Major League Fishing pros at Elite Series events and other places around the country. Did you learn something new yesterday that will help you in your future rounds?
Yes, I did. Coming into this deal, I was actually telling my wife, I said, well, there's one thing I'm gonna do. It's a matter of numbers. So I'm definitely gonna have a shaky head and a drop shot tied on, for the tough times. And that was my plan coming in. But then we got out there yesterday, and I think we had 30-mile-an-hour winds all day. So,
right.
And it seemed like a lot of the areas that I was in, was not protected from the wind. So, you're out here in 3-footers, 2 and 3 footers throwing a jerkbait and spinnerbait, and you're not going to pick up a shaky head or a drop shot. And I should have realized, I thought we had enough wind where I could power fish most of the day. Mm-hmm. And I caught some doing that, but it wasn't quite enough. It was just off, and I knew it was a post frontal situation, regardless if we had wind. The front was leaving, and we had bluebird skies, but you had wind to offset that. And I should have knew the bite would still be a little tough. It's a lot different than when you have a front coming in and you have heavy winds. Then you can power fish a lot more and you'll get a lot more bites. But I should have realized that and maybe got in some protected areas and threw a drop shot or a shaky head, because I actually talked to a couple of the guys that done real well during the tough times of the day, and I know one personally caught him on a shaky head. So that was probably my biggest mistake there.
Well, it's a fun game to play, and we're glad you're a part of it. We look forward to seeing you down the road.
All right.
Marty Robinson, Major League Fishing angler, experiencing the MLF game for the very first time. If you want to learn more about Major League Fishing, go to MajorLeagueFishing.com.